Welcome to European Entrepreneurship and Innovation at Stanford. My name is Burton Lee. Today is session 4, February 5th, 2018. We're going to be focusing on Slovenia and Turkey, Balkans and Southeastern Europe today, with a little bit of Bosnia, Sarajevo, and the history, a little bit of history of the region, including touching on the Ottoman Empire. So this is a course which is run at Stanford for 9 years. It's a speaker series. I am here as curator. I'm American. All of our speakers are, however, European, with the occasional Silicon Valley investor. Today, our speakers, we're very privileged to have speakers from Slovenia and Turkey. Our first speaker will be Duygu Oktem Clark, formerly with Turk Telecom, responsible for running the startup operations for Turk Telecom out of Istanbul for several years, which is how we met. And then Lukner Roljič, who is managing director of ABC Accelerator, headquartered out of Ljubljana. And then followed by Dobnikar, also based out of Ljubljana, who is the CEO of ABC Business Academy, and Richard Pivnicka, who is joining us as Honorary General Consul of the Czech Republic and member of Band of Angels and an investor and longtime expert and connoisseur here in the Valley. We're also pleased to announce that Mind the Bridge has joined as our industry partner for 2018, led by Marco Marinucci. Marco, and that Mind the Bridge is sponsoring, organizing European Innovation Day starting, this is the 3rd year you've been doing EID, at 4th year at Computer History Museum on September 11. Let's talk a little bit about what's happening in Europe. How many of you are Super Bowl fans? I'm not a Super Bowl fan. Some people in Europe were watching Super Bowl, but not in the way we were. So this is a tweet from the Science Museum in London. This is their version of a Super Bowl. So this is a commemorative bowl which was created in 1834 to memorialize the opening of the Liverpool-Manchester Railway. Super Bowl UK, all right. Then the British Museum had a different take. Instead of Super Bowl, they had superb owls. So this is an ancient Greek coin. This is the goddess Athena, goddess of wisdom, with a superb owl on the other side. So a little bit of British humor. Thank you very much. Today, however, in the background, we're going to be focusing on startups, tech, ecosystems, but the core issue in building these ecosystems in emerging economies is trust, openness, transparency, lowering barriers. In that regard, it's important to know that today in Berlin was celebrated, it's a very important day. The Berlin Wall was up, so from 1961 until when was the final Baustein of the Berlin Wall taken down? Because it took a long time to take the wall down. But the wall was up over 10,000 days. And so today marks the same number of days that the wall has been down. So this is a very important day in German history, but also represents, I think, illustrates our broader theme of lowering barriers in Europe. We're focusing on Southeastern Europe and the Balkans today. Just to give you a historical sense, these show the per capita earnings, income of people in Europe in 1890. 1890, over 120 years ago. And so red is lower than $2,000, $2017. You can see this whole region of Europe was extremely poor in 1890 compared with UK, Germany, other parts of Europe. So the challenges that we're seeing today in the Balkans region go back decades and centuries even. If you look at the history of the spread of technology and industry across Europe, much of it came out of the UK. This map is not totally correct, but this basically is a very good schematic of the flow of industrialization across Europe starting in the UK. There were also nodes of industrialization in Catalonia, for example, Netherlands, Germany, which aren't pictured here. But the key element here is that, again, Southeastern Europe, industrialization reached Southeastern Europe and Eastern Europe last. If you look at recent data about foreign direct investment from 2015, again, you'll see big gaps in this part of Europe, the exception here being Turkey, which has received a lot of foreign direct investment in recent years. We'll talk a little bit about the history of the Ottoman Empire. This is a huge story unto itself. This is not a history course, but it's important to note that the conflicts in the Balkans, the issue of economic development, the divisions along religious, political lines going back centuries have a very, very long history. What is important to note here is that, and you can see the Ottoman Empire really extended into Hungary. They never conquered Vienna, so there's a siege of Vienna, I believe in 1680s. It really reached its, in terms of 19th century, 18th, 19th century, it reached its apex in Bosnia-Herzegovina. Croatia and Slovenia were not part of the Ottoman Empire for centuries, whereas Bosnia and the other parts, all this of the Balkans was. So this is an important background reason why we're seeing startups, why we're seeing accelerators coming out of Slovenia and Croatia today before other parts of the Balkans. There's a deep historical roots here. It's worth mentioning that in June 1914, Sarajevo, which is the capital of Bosnia, was where World War I started, with the assassination of the Archduke and his wife. This affected all of us. My grandfather was a surgeon with the American Army in France in 1917-18. More recently, violence came to the Balkans in the form of the war in the 1990s. Perhaps one of the more gruesome reminders was the massacre at Srebrenica in July of 1995, which is still being remembered and commemorated today. So how do you build trust in a community where just 250 miles away, and I'm talking of Ljubljana today, the difference between Srebrenica and Ljubljana is 250 miles. That's less than the distance from here to Los Angeles. How do you build trust when you've had genocide 250 miles away from your home? It's a very challenging environment. What we do here in the Valley, I consider simple entrepreneurship. In Europe and other emerging economies, it's far more complex and far more challenging. And so back to the map, again, Slovenia and Croatia really did not experience the Ottoman Empire. We're not part of that cultural political system to the extent that the rest of the Balkans was, and this is one of the reasons why they've taken the lead in many ways in the Balkans. Also want to point out some success stories other than the companies that will be presenting today. So 2 years ago in 2016, we presented Rimac Automobili out of Zagreb. They're an amazing electric car startup who, since they spoke here at Stanford, have received significant investments, I believe, out of China, maybe Germany. Mate, who is the founder, posted on Facebook about 10 days ago their hiring curve. So you can see, so this is 2012, this is 2017. You can see it took them a while to get going, but this is a car company, this is a car startup. Look at that employment company, look at that employment curve. That's astonishing for Europe, it would be astonishing for the United States. This is an example of some of the great companies and great founders that you find all across Europe. It's a great success story, and we're proud to feature them here at Stanford when we can.